Right then. So on the pilot episode, it was our PS5 predictions.
Yes.
And since then, there's been the actual PS5 event itself, and a couple of clarifications, because there was one thing in particular that there was a touch of confusion about. I'll just say that again. One thing in particular that there was a touch of confusion about. So just to recap what we discussed last time, the first topic was actually Lockhart, because we started rambling about Xbox, and therefore a digital version. Now, digital PS5, that came out of nowhere.
I won't say it came out of nowhere. There was no rumours of it, but I don't think it's unexpected as such. I don't think it's
yeah.
It's something that I think was well within the realm of a possibility.
I sort of did. I didn't see it being a launch thing though. It felt.
Yeah.
I think, although it felt inevitable that it was going to happen, it also felt like it was going to be something further down the line, like next Christmas, so 2021. Have the Prime version out first.
Yeah.
And then release the other version in a year's time, potentially with a larger hard drive, because obviously in 12 months the cost of the hard drive might drop a little bit, so they could, because 825 gig is not huge. So as you won't have a disc, the install is going to be significantly larger.
I don't think it will be.
No?
Nope, I don't think the discs are being used for anything this generation, but telling the console to install the game.
Yeah.
And telling you own it, so you probably still have to have a disc in the console, but I don't think the discs are doing much.
I think it might depend on the game. I think you might be right with things like open worlders in particular. They need to install such a massive file anyway. But something like maybe a sports game, we're potentially get away with that.
I mean, we're almost there now. I don't think there's much difference in like size between installing Final Fantasy VII from the PSN store or installing it off disk. I think it takes up roughly the same size on your hard drive.
Yeah,
it's another game, and it's another game like Red Dead, where you have an install disc and a play disc.
Yeah, I see. I didn't buy Red Dead on a disc version, so.
With both those games, it's a 2-disc game, but only one disc is ever used to actually. It's not like you get up halfway through the game and swap the discs around like the good old days. Yeah. It uses a disc as an install disc, and then the second disc is the.
I mean, I suppose one thing that it could be with the disc versions of games will be that the sound and pre-rendered video come straight from the disc.
Potentially shorter install times because it's been installed off disk instead of downloaded off the internet. And by God, I do hope download speeds have improved this gen.
Yeah, I mean that's well, I think it also depends on where you live, because I mean
the SSD will help as well.
Well, I don't know if it does, because I know obviously like it was some time ago, but when SSDs first became a potential for PS3, when you could hotspot the hard drive for that, the install time was actually longer on an SSD than it was on an old whirly one.
Optimization issues?
I don't know. I mean, it was relatively new technology, so it could just simply be that it was like, yeah, as you say, not optimized for it. Whereas now
Yeah.
they've had time to program. The technology's moved further on as well, so there's that. I think it. So I don't know. I don't know as far as that goes, but yeah, I think like internet speeds is something. Is more important with that thing, because like my when I lived in Korea, which is when I got the PS4 Pro, I'd heard awful things about download and install times, but then my internet speed there was pretty high. It's not actually as high as it is here now in Gateshead, but then I do live in a fairly major city now, as I did in Korea. Whereas I don't. What's your internet speed?
I get about 70 meg. I mean, easy way to find out.
Yeah, I mean more than good enough then.
Yeah. I'm on
because I mean
pretty much as fast as you can get around here.
That was all I was getting in Korea.
If I'm Ethernet or something, if I'm running off an Ethernet, I can quite happily run something like Google Chrome without a problem.
Yeah. Fair enough. No, I mean,
it looks like I'm averaging at around 60, 63, 64 megs a second.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, the only thing that will slow that down is how many devices you've got running at one time. Which, like, say, if you're doing a midnight install for a PlayStation release, that's fine. Because
what speeds do you get there?
We pay for up to 150.
Do you have fibre to the building?
Yes.
City. Your dad tried to convince me he has fibre to the building the other day, and it's like,
no, I don't think you do.
No, like you're in Sandbach and like down the country lane in Sandbach, it's like, no, they do. They came in and installed it. I'm like, okay.
Well,
he doesn't.
They might have done.
I went and did a test afterwards, and that Sandbach is not available for fibre to the house yet.
But yeah, we do here.
Yeah, so we're fibre to box and then copper from box to house. One day.
Yeah, but yeah, so I mean, like, I don't think download and install times are going to be a huge issue for certain places, but in others they will, which is obviously another reason to keep a disk running. And you know, as we've said, potentially things like music and other sound files and even pre-rendered video files, having that on the disk will be fast enough. And actually, like for cutscenes, I know obviously a lot of cutscenes are like in engine, and done live. For other cutscenes, it's actually still pre-recorded stuff. So like something like The Last of Us, where it's very important to have I suppose pre-rendered and optimized and what have you. I imagine they're still actually pre-recorded. So someone like Naughty Dog in the next generation might take advantage of having something like a disc. Which again, in turn, acts not that you need load screens. In theory, in turn, it gives your computer that little bit of time, that breathing space. So if you're reading a video file from a disc for the cutscene, then you've got that time to properly load a full crisp environment for when you exit the cutscene.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I think
I did read interesting, a weird article. It was either in PC Mag or PC Gamer. And it was talking about how digital only is a terrible choice to even make a digital only console, right? And it's like PCs have been digital only for
essentially been digitally only
how long now?
Yeah. Because
Like,
I mean, even back in the day, like when consoles had moved to DVD, like
yeah,
PCs were still using CD installs because all it was literally just taking the data and putting it
yeah,
on the hard drive and running it from the hard drive. And then subsequently, when, like, say, in the PlayStation 3 generation, when they'd finally moved to Blu-ray for one of the consoles at least,
yeah.
the PC generation was still using DVDs at that point for
Well, that generation is pretty much when we went fully over to
yeah.
Steam and other online
But
storefronts.
again, I mean, it was still a case of, like, if you bought the physical one, it was a mega compressed DVD uh,
Yeah,
that then you fully installed on the disc. But again, it's the compression side, isn't it?
but also, as weird as it sounds, it's weird to say this, Blu-ray did not take off well enough to guarantee that every computer would have had
A
a
Blu-ray.
Blu-ray drive in.
Yeah.
Like, it's ludicrous that you can still go into a shop and walk out with a DVD.
Oh yeah, I mean, Sony should have completely banned DVD production after a certain period of time.
Like, especially because people still buy new tellies, right?
Yeah.
So people going out there and buying 4K televisions,
Or even 8K.
I imagine anyone buying an 8K telly probably has a 4K Blu-ray player. To be fair, let's play. If you're spending that kind of money on an 8K telly,
I bet
you're someone who's got a home at the moment. You're someone who's got a home entertainment system.
I bet there's some chavvy nonsense out there that, like when I did that trial shift at Sounds, there was a woman who came in and she wanted to buy a brand new 4K TV because her old TV was on the blink, but it had to have the ability to accept a VHS input, because there were certain things that her parents watched that they had on VHS and they refused to get on DVD or Blu-ray. Like,
So I have a SCART port on the back.
So it either had to have a SCART port or you had to have some means of plugging it through.
Like, how awful would that look like? So you've bought yourself a new 6-inch 60-inch 4K telly, right?
Yeah.
You get home, you unbox it, and then you put a DVD on it, and the telly will try its hardest to upscale it, but it's gonna look bad.
I mean, at least if you popped it into a Blu-ray player, and then the Blu-ray player will have a crack at upscaling, and then the TV will probably have another crack at upscaling, that it might look okay. Like some of the in fact, some of the really, really well done DVDs, actually don't look terrible. On on a 4K TV it'll look shit.
Well, I watched the occasional DVD. Like, I was watching Simpsons on DVD the other week, and it looked.
But it's different with a cartoon because you've got solid colours. You got like loads of solid bits. So especially with something as basic as that, or Family Guy, or something like that, you've got so many big colour blocks that it's quite easy for the upscaler to just mush them all together and turn them. Anyway, we're getting way off topic. So yeah, a digital came out of nowhere. Shall we do a few a little price discussion then before we move on to the games?
I don't know. The price discussion has been so hashed out. Like, it's gonna be 600 quid for the disc.
Yeah.
500 for the digital. I don't want it to be that, but I do think it's going to. I would like 400 and 3 to 450. Like, well, I mean 499 for the
disc.
Disc, that would be the price I would be happy with. 599, I think is too much, but I think we're gonna go there. But then both companies are playing chicken with the prices, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like, they're waiting for the other one to drop a price. Hey, these could be the first consoles that launch without a price because neither company had the guts to to announce it.
I mean, assume they launch, because I still think there's a very decent chance that if the new Cyberpunk date is within a week either way of the two consoles, that there could be chaos in the States after the election. I know, obviously, bringing politics into it, but
I don't think that would affect launch. I don't think that would affect launch.
I think it won't affect everywhere else. It depends on how bad it goes, because I mean, like, if like, as with the local election in, oh God, where was it?
It was the election for McConnell.
There was one. Could have been, yeah, where they've cut voter and like it was something like 60,000 people had one polling station in a predominantly black area. That's going to happen in November. Chances are it's going to be policed. There's going to be a lot of people who look dodgy that will be taken away. So there could be a lot more political turmoil.
The cogs be so far along that I think all that would lead to is the console not launching in the States. Though.
Yeah, I think everywhere else gets it. And
that if that is happening, a console shouldn't be people's concern.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously there'll be significantly worse things happening, but I think there is a chance that it doesn't launch, at least in the States this year. A small chance. But yeah, price, I think you're right. I think if they can get away with it, 600 for the disc and 500 for the digital, I think it does slightly depend on what happens with Lockhart, which does look significantly more likely now.
It's a price I weirdly begrudge. Like, I think it actually has the power to justify 600 easily.
Oh, happily. I mean,
I begrudge the price.
I mean, I was one of the very first European adopters of the PlayStation 3. And yes, I got some staff discount on it because I worked in retail at the time, but that was still a very expensive console. However, I looked after my console, and for pretty much the entire run of that generation, my console survived. So I got my money's worth out of it. And I'm a firm believer that, to be honest, if you do that with your consoles and they're well built, because that's the other thing, obviously, if you bought a 360 day one, it was a different question. But
I had both conk out on me, to be fair.
Oh, I mean,
the 360 conk out once and a PlayStation conk out once.
Yeah, my PlayStation did eventually die on me, so I got a replacement. But I mean, that was 7 years deep. I think PlayStation 4 was out by the time my first PlayStation 3 died. So
Resident Evil 5 killed my PS3. Just playing it one day, and it had the common error with the PS3, where the disk drive just basically decided. Sony have always struggled with disk drives. The PS2 was notorious for it. The PS3 was notorious for it.
Oh, I got the
PS4 hasn't been notorious for it, to be fair.
Yeah. I got the yellow light issue.
Yeah, that was a disk drive issue.
It was a hard drive, I thought.
I thought it was that the laser wasn't reading anymore, which was the same issues PS2's got plagued with.
No, I mean, to be honest, for my first PlayStation 3, it came down to the fact I didn't look after it well enough. So I didn't dust the room that it was in often enough. So it was just plagued with that. So there was probably tons of overheating and all sorts. So
I guess the PS4's issue is that it sounds like a jet engine.
Yeah, although mine has never been as bad as people complain about.
It all depends how much dust you got in there, doesn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it does. But yeah, mine's
cockroaches, as they are also apparently prone to.
What's that? Sorry.
Cockroaches like to live in there, don't they?
Do they?
Yeah, apparently, like it's quite common when people have opened PS4s to repair them, they just find dead cockroaches in there.
Oh, it must have been when they're babies and they've crawled in because it's warm, and then they've got too big,
Yep.
and then like I assume they've eaten each other.
Guess only a problem where you have cockroach issues.
Well, I used to have cockroaches in Korea.
Maybe you got a couple of cockroaches in there.
There might be a couple of dead ones in there.
You got a Pro as well, so plenty of space for them.
Yeah, true. But yeah, I think depending on Lockhart, which obviously some of the rumors have said that it's going to be like crazy cheap. Depending on Lockhart, I think that Sony might drag down.
Yeah,
both of those. I know you're not confident on the 50 marks. I think there might be a potential for a 50.
Companies just tend to avoid them.
I know they tend to avoid them. It does happen every now and again.
If the rumours of the Xbox prices are accurate, anyway, even remotely close to what people are predicting, Sony has to drag those prices down.
They've got to, and they've got to take a hit on them. I honestly cannot see the Microsoft parent company signing off on that big of a loss for the Series X at least. I think maybe the Lockhart, but certainly not the Series X. I mean, it's going to be close to, as we've said. I mean, if they sell 10 million units between the two, like
they're a software company, not a hardware company.
They are,
and software has moved to the services industry. And
yeah, I know, but I mean, it's still $1 billion loss if they sell 10 million units in the first year.
Yeah, but how many people are currently using? How many current subscribers does Xbox Live have?
I don't know, in all honesty, but I mean, like, even assuming that there's people who don't own an Xbox that are using Xbox Live for PC instead, it's probably going to be a maximum of like 100 million, and that's like a very, very, very maximum number, because a surprisingly large amount of people who own consoles don't pay for the online services. Even though obviously
goes times where I'm not on either. Like, I let my PS Plus elapse for a while here and there.
I like it for the monthly games, because even at the tail end, there's still some interesting stuff that turns up. And it means I can try that game for free, which at some point the majority of those games were £50 games.
You still need to play Titanfall 2.
I do need to play Titanfall 2, but I have it because of PS Plus.
You will love that campaign.
Yeah, I can't wait to play it. But it's what we're talking about. Yeah, so like I don't know. I think I could see the Lockhart or Series S or whatever it ends up being called, probably Series S, being $200 or £200 or €200. I'm not confident that the Series X would be. I think because there's so much marketing towards this is the most powerful console ever made, that you could very comfortably, especially if you're not expecting to sell huge numbers of units of that particular version, but sell that at the inflated price.
I think they want the 1-2 punch though of this is the most powerful console ever made, and we're cheaper than the PS5. They want that 1-2, and if they are going to recoup, that's what they need to do. As in, if they are the same price or more expensive than the PS5, no one's buying a Series X. Sony has got that much of a lead at the moment that, I mean, the PS4 clawed back by severely undercutting the Xbox One. That's how Sony got the start this generation.
Well, I mean, it's one of the reasons they got the start, because I mean, the other reason is obviously by the end of the generation of the PS3 and 360, people had a lot more confidence in the PS3 and Sony as a whole, because
the predominant image was still of it was Microsoft's generation.
Yeah, the predominant image was still that because of the excellent start that the 360 had comparatively. But Sony had a very strong finish, and of course was smashing out some incredible first-party games, which is now what Sony has become known for. It was whether the PlayStation 3 as a hardware unit itself was successful or not is up for debate, but the PlayStation 3 as a generation of games definitely, I would say, won over the 360, because that's the one that then people were thinking, well, actually, I want to see Uncharted 4. I want to see what's going to happen with with these first
certainly, but there's no escaping the fact that the PS4 launched at $400.
Oh yeah, I mean there is
compared to 500 for the
Xbox. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean the problem with that was that the Xbox was actually ever so slightly less powerful as well. It wasn't a huge difference, but it would be more along the lines of, say, this time around, if the PlayStation 5, which is ever so slightly less powerful than the Series X, launched $100 more, that would be where the issue would lie. If I think if the two of them,
the PS5 could be $100 more than the Series X.
It could be, and I don't think it will be though.
I do.
No,
I think it all depends on who announces first. If Microsoft announces pricings first,
yeah,
Sony will lower to compete. If Sony announced first, Microsoft is instantly just going to undercut them by 100. Whatever Sony announces,
yeah,
Microsoft will undercut.
Well, I mean, yeah, because of course, like their gaming division the other day, Mixer essentially closed the other day.
Yeah.
And that could save them a lot of money.
I 100% think Microsoft's pricing strategy is $100 less than whatever Sony announces.
Yeah.
I think that's their plan. I think they're just waiting for Sony to give a price, and they're going to then just go $100 less, whatever Sony announces.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, we'll see, won't we? We'll see.
I think the only chance you won't get that is if they do announce that, if Sony do something ridiculous and announce at $400, right? They're not going to. Not in a million years, that console is not a $400 console.
No.
But if it was, Microsoft, I think, would just meet that price and not.
Yeah, I don't think Sony. Again, I don't think the parent arm of Sony, as much as actually PlayStation makes the bulk of Sony's money now, I don't think the parent arm of Sony would actually necessarily allow that much loss. So, I mean, I could see 450.
I think for the best case scenario, 500 for the PS5.
I could see it at 450 with an ever so slight loss for a console, because that is going to be a small loss as opposed to an absolutely catastrophically massive loss. But then it might be that weird thing of the digital version then has to go in at 375.
Yeah.
Which again is a strange number.
We are, however, half hour in, so we should probably move on from price.
True.
Game of the show.
Right, games and game of the show.
Yeah, what was your game of the show?
Ooh. That's a hard one. I mean, probably Gran Turismo 7, but then that's just because I'm, Trial Mountain, man. Like,
don't know what that means.
Trial Mountain was in the very first Gran Turismo. It was in Gran Turismo 2, Gran Turismo 3, 4. It may have been in 5 and 6 as well. But none of the legacy tracks are in Gran Turismo Sport.
Yeah.
There are real world tracks that have appeared in previous Gran Turismos. And then there are brand new Gran Turismo built from the ground up tracks. Part of the reason for this seems to be that because of the affiliation with the FIA, so the governing body of things like Formula One and stuff like that, the tracks have to meet real world FIA specifications. So they've got to have certain shapes and certain bends and this, that, and the other. And so Trial Mountain that's in Gran Turismo 7 is actually a redesigned Trial Mountain. It isn't the same Trial Mountain that was in the old games. There's a few noticeable changes. The overall shape is recognizable, but it's had some tweaks here and there. The speculation is it's because the FIA want it to be, if it were a real course, this would be a legal course. So my hope is that is a taster of something to come, because I've wanted the legacy tracks to return. Especially some of the old street courses, like the Rome courses from Gran Turismo 2 and Gran Turismo 3 were some of my favourite courses, but haven't been in any of the games for a long time. I'd like Gran Turismo 7 to actually last the majority of the generation, and just be supported in the same way that Gran Turismo Sport has been, with regular either free updates or a season pass. I don't mind a season pass, to be perfectly honest, because the amount of essentially free content that they've given and support over the last 3-ish years since it came out has been incredible, absolutely incredible. So if they get even close to that with Gran Turismo 7, then yeah, a reasonable priced season pass would be perfectly fine. In my book. So yeah, maybe Gran Turismo. How about you?
Ratchet and Clank, I think.
I was leaning towards that myself.
It looked stunning. Like,
didn't it?
That was Pixar quality kind of animation, and
I get the feeling it's quite early in development as well. I don't think it's actually as close as we think. So I think there's more yet to happen.
It's a game that I think out of everything they showed, it best showed off what things like the SSD are capable of.
Jumping
through worlds and kind of portals, and the instant loading of the and it looked like a Ratchet and Clank game, man, which is always fun.
Yeah, I mean, I never got into any of the Sony platformers in the earlier consoles. Like, I bought my PlayStation 1 as a Gran machine, and since, like, I think since then I've never necessarily got into them. But then, because the latest Ratchet and Clank, the remake reboot thing,
I've still got to play that.
Oh man, it's so good, because that came out. That was on PS Plus.
Yeah, I've got it on PS Plus. I need to give it a go.
So we smashed through it, and it was amazing, absolutely amazing. And so they, I think if it's even like, if it's just the same level as that game, but the PS5 equivalent, like, it doesn't, because the thing is, the PS4 version was pretty. It certainly wasn't the best graphic of the generation, but the art style, a bit like Nintendo games, really, I suppose. The art style make up for the fact that the graphics don't need to be that good. So obviously the extra power and the little gimmicks that you can throw in there with the PlayStation 5 mean that they've got the potential to do something quite incredible gameplay wise while being pretty enough with their art style. And that's something I'm quite looking forward to. So, I think, I think Ratchet's up there. I think Grand first for obvious reasons, and then Ratchet right then.
Miles Morales will be a good time.
Oh hell yeah! As we mentioned earlier, there was a bit of confusion with what it actually is. It is a standalone game. In the sense,
see, I thought it was pretty obvious what it was going to be.
It was because it was the head of Sony Europe.
Yes.
It was like someone who doesn't have anything to do with the actual gaming side of anything. Just someone like who is a money man. Interviewed him. Said something stupid. So
thing is, I still think expansion is the right word for it.
But
it's just a standalone expansion.
Yeah, because obviously it's using the same map. It's not quite the same as Uncharted Legacy.
It's not going to be a full game.
Well, it depends on how you define a full game. Because I mean, like, if you look at say a Call of Duty campaign, they are no longer than 5 hours.
But this is Spider-Man, so we've got to class the original Spider-Man as a full game.
Yeah.
So if it's shorter than that, it's arguably not.
Well, I think if you absolutely smash that Spider-Man, you're looking at 12 hours.
I should probably finish it.
And if you take your time like I did, I mean, it's one of my very rare platinums, and I did it in no more than 30 hours, I think, including getting all the platinum like things. So, and I'm not the fastest of gamers. Like usually, if a game is supposed to be 10 hours, it will quite often take me 15. So like it's one of them. I think not that Red Dead times you, but I think my Red Dead count is going to be somewhere in the region of about 400 hours now.
Yeah.
And that again is doable in under 200. So like
it's giving us a Miles game to launch for PS5 with is a good choice.
Yeah, I mean it's great. It gets to test all the new textures and stuff that they've thrown into the old map. It's a big enough game, a fun enough game. It's one that you can get out for launch or within the launch window, so it'll definitely be out by Christmas. It probably isn't going to be a full price game, because that's the other thing. No. Like obviously, you've got what's probably going to be the most expensive console in a very long time. Not just in price point, but in inflation as well. It's going to be one of those.
It might be a good idea to preload it on the hard drive.
You see, I think that going back to the price thing from earlier, I think that's something that Sony potentially does have that Microsoft doesn't necessarily have, because obviously Microsoft will be reluctant to give away a free game when they really want you to sign up for Game Pass.
Yeah.
So I think the more likely thing for Microsoft will be, if they are going to go 600 with the Series X, it might be that you get 6 months or 12 months of Game Pass included.
Yeah.
Whereas, which obviously ups the value of the console, doesn't lose them any money on the console, and gets you into Game Pass, so you can realize how good of a bargain Game Pass is for going forward after that.
Yeah.
With Sony, they've got the advantage of they've got some games that they can give away for free. So if they have to go 600 with the PlayStation 5, they could give you Miles Morales. They could give you Dreams. Because that's been out. It's made the money it's going to make.
The PS4 launched with both Killzone and Knack bundles.
Yeah. So I mean, it could very well be that it might be a case of just don't make it an option.
And
have no version of the PlayStation come out this Christmas, where you don't get a game with it. I mean, and Spider-Man is family friendly enough.
Yeah.
Especially in the States where no one gives a shit about ratings anyway. that if you give Spider-Man away for free with the console, it pleases adults and it pleases kids.
Yep,
So
it's a good game to.
it's a win-win all round, really, isn't it?
We got some console exclusives announced from
Yeah.
Bethesda of all publishers.
Yeah, third-party ones as well, which is like more of the games at that on that conference video thing, that event, were exclusive, either console exclusive or actual exclusives.
Yeah.
Then you'd realise. I think there was only really a couple of like truly cross-platform games that were shown.
Square game.
Yeah.
The Square Enix. And which is weird because Square Enix have actually been making what seemed to be making friends with Microsoft lately, because the entire Kingdom Hearts is on Game Pass right now.
Money's money, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Like, I think the thing is that, like, when with the likes of Square, their games are
more leaning towards Sony players.
Well, no, I was more going to say that, like, they're not necessarily the biggest sellers. They sell well, but they're never like something that's going to break records. So, although it might be that
it depends on what country you're in.
Yeah, I mean, obviously in Japan they're always going to be massive, but we're on the worldwide situation, which, like, get in Japan, Xbox doesn't do well.
Games that don't have Final Fantasy or Kingdoms and Hearts in the title don't tend to sell super well outside of
even Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts, on the grand scheme of things, don't sell gangbusters. Like,
they don't sell GTA money, but they still sell.
I mean, I'm not even saying that, but like, they're not gonna. Comparatively, they're probably mid-tier as opposed to, like, upper mid-tier, but they're not like they're not going to be going for the big money. So and it's
Final Fantasy VII Remake so far has sold 3.5 million copies. That's good.
It's good, but it's not monstrous. Like, it's not.
Very few things are.
Oh, I know, but I mean, like, their upper limit probably is going to be 6 or 7, and that's for something that people have been craving for years. Like, for decades, they've been asking for a Final Fantasy VII remake. So I think if your upper limit is probably 6 or 7 million, which is what a Resident Evil can do, then I'm not saying it's a small game by any means, but I mean, you might as well have streams of revenue for it in as many different areas as you possibly can. Whereas obviously with this game, Sony have obviously gone to them and said, look, can we have a game? Like,
it's probably going to come out at the end of
it'll be end of PlayStation 7 by the time
that comes out. An interesting question about why we're on the topic of Square.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VII Remake Chapter 2, Part 2, whatever they're going to call it.
Yeah.
PS5 game?
Yeah.
Yeah. Will it come out on PS4 as well? Or is it just straight up going to be a next-gen game and we're going to have this weird...
I think... Right, okay. The Japanese version of it will be cross-platform on the Sony platforms. The worldwide English translation version of it will be PlayStation 5 only.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Again, because they know they're going to potentially sell more copies in Japan.
Yeah.
And they also know that, like, there's still going to be a load of old PlayStation 4s lying around. That you may as well sell a copy on it.
We also got some, in the past week, confirmation from third parties, and again, we still have heard more from third parties on the ins and outs of this than we have from Sony themselves. But Cyberpunk will have an improved PS5 version that you don't have to pay for if you own the PS4 version.
Not day one, though. It's going to be next year.
No, they said day one.
No, they've said
They said at launch of the new consoles.
At the launch of the new consoles, it will run better on the new consoles, but there is a dedicated better version that will be updated at some point next year.
And Avengers, that is also going to be.
Oh right, I didn't hear that about Avengers.
Yeah, Avengers will run better on PS5, Xbox One than it will on Xbox Series, the new Xbox.
Yeah.
Than it will on PS4 and Xbox One.
Yeah.
And again, that's free. I assume it's a case of putting the disc into your console and it gets patched.
Yeah. Probably.
Avengers event today as well.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Yeah. To be honest, I'm not interested.
I like a lot of what I've seen of it, especially as it's gone along and I think they showed it too early.
Yeah.
Because that first video was not good, but everything they've shown since.
Yeah, I've got a bit more interested, but I think I'm not.
It's a Miss Marvel game as well, and I like Miss Marvel.
Yeah. What else? So our predictions were Spider-Man was amazing to be shown. That was shown. Horizon we were split on.
Did we say Spider-Man 2 was a maybe, or
we said Spider-Man 2?
Then it wasn't shown.
It wasn't shown. Although I do think Spider-Man 2 isn't that far off.
It's got to be further off than Ratchet.
Maybe.
But we'll say Spider-Man is half a point.
Yeah. I think maybe, I don't know, because Guerrilla have said that Horizon's next year, probably.
Yes.
They haven't given a date.
I think most of what we saw is next year. Outside of things like Square's game, that's a long way off.
So knowing that Horizon is most likely penciled in for next year, do you think that Sony and Marvel, if Spider-Man is ready, go for Spider-Man next year as well, or do they push it back for the following year?
I don't think it's close to being ready for next year.
Yeah.
Ratchet's next year.
Ratchet's next year.
Ratchet is a spring release.
Yeah.
Horizon is the summer, kind of late summer release.
Yeah.
Horizon will have the slot that kind of Last of Us Ghosts has this year.
Yeah.
Ratchet will go in that kind of
that new hot area.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that.
So Ratchet's the kind of game that keeps people going, but doesn't necessarily.
Yeah, because it's another one that can get quick out. The only thing with that is obviously that's two, essentially, as far as Sony first-party exclusives go, that's two back-to-back Insomniac games. Because it'd be
Spider-Man,
then Ratchet and Clank, yeah. So I wonder if Demon Souls slots in there, which was another one of our predictions, because obviously we did discuss the Blue Point game.
Yeah.
So does Demon Souls slot in there? Maybe. Because I don't think Demon Souls is actually for launch.
No. That thingy was for launch, wasn't it?
What was that?
That weird game about the one that was very cartoony in look, about like forest spirits and stuff.
Oh yeah, I think that might have been. Yeah, I think that might have been. Yeah.
That was also a very good looking game.
The one made by the two brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Not the not Little Devil Inside, that has got into a little bit of hot water because of some racist character designs.
Yes, although credit to the developers, they've listened and they've promised to kind of rethink and change those designs.
Yeah.
They didn't just kind of double down on the.
See, that's an interesting one because it's quite a relatively small team. well, a relatively small developer, but I think it's a Western developer that's hired
A Korean development
a
team.
Korean development team and so they've done a lot of the art design as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's where some of the issues have come. Because I don't think the heads of the creative team have actually necessarily been paying attention the entire time. I think it's more been relaying instructions remotely, and then that's so that'd be interesting. Like it looked fun.
Yeah, it looked like an interesting game.
Yeah. Playing things on two planes from the looks of it. So you had your it almost
looked like man remembering your adventures, aren't you?
Yeah, it almost looked like the hub, like you've got a hub world that is the old man, and depending on what part of your hub world, that depends on what level your memory is in. So which looked kind of fun. What else have we got? We mentioned Xbox first-party games coming to PlayStation, so things like Bethesda, not Bethesda, Outer Worlds.
Oh yes, but Outer Worlds 2 would not be coming to PlayStation.
Yeah, you see, last on the pilot video, we speculated that it would potentially, but as a time,
I think it was. Yeah, I don't think. Think on it more. I don't think it will.
Yeah, because we were also talking about Hellblade 2.
Yes.
Whether that would, because that's got a big enough base with Sony gamers. But again, I could see that being a timed exclusive still. Because it's also the type, like, they're that narrative-y kind of game that Sony players enjoy.
I'm starting to think, though, that Microsoft might have the sense to keep their first-party titles first-party. I think it's going to. I think it's all going to depend on how well those consoles sell, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, they're also not necessarily too asked. Like with things like xCloud and stuff like that coming, their whole thing really is.
I think you're more likely to see them on the Switch than you are for PlayStation. Via xCloud.
Yeah, via xCloud, yeah.
Because Nintendo and Microsoft seem to be getting quite.
I think you're right.
Of late.
It depends on how well they sell.
I think Obsidian's first game for Microsoft is out shortly.
You see, I think like a game that Obsidian has actually made for Microsoft, and likewise a game that Ninja Theory has made for Microsoft will stay there. I think the sequels to games that they've made that have been multi-platform or been on other platforms, there might be a chance. Again, I think it'd be a case of a timed exclusive. It might be that it could be a whole 12 months. Because it's extra cash in the end. So which if they are going to take a massive hit with the console price, it might be worth Outer Worlds 2 and Hellblade 2.
Yeah.
If Sony release, even if it's 12 months down the line, just to recoup a little bit of extra.
Yeah. Because Obsidian are about to launch their first Microsoft game, obviously going straight to Game Pass, and it's basically Honey, I Shrunk the Kids for game.
Cool.
It's not an RPG. You play some kids. It's like an action adventure game where you play some kids who have been shrunk down in the garden, and you've got to survive.
Yeah, I mean, you see, that'll never appear on the PlayStation because it's made for.
And it's like Ninja Theory's first game for them was an arena shooter for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
Close quarters as opposed to shooting, so an arena combat game. But and again, that just kind of came out of nowhere. I've played it a little bit. It's not my kind of thing, but if you like that kind of thing,
But then they're a studio as small as they are very talented at making combat games.
Yes.
Because the combat in their games has always been very good.
They built combat for Disney Infinity, didn't they?
Did they?
Mm-hmm. Disney Infinity had so many studios working on it.
Yeah.
Like different styles of gameplay that were inside the toy box.
Well, I suppose it makes sense. But they had So I mean, it was a smart purchase with them because as small as they are, they're also probably the type of studio that have got the mechanics already sorted. That you put some skins on something and you can very quickly put an arena shooter out there, and then that bit of content that Microsoft have essentially made, not for free, but like as cheap as it's possibly going to get. Which at worst, it just goes on to Game Pass and gives someone something to play for a month.
Yeah.
And
the new Yakuza game, that looked fun as well.
Yes, yeah, it did. That was
I always want to get into the Yakuza games, and this looks like potentially a good jumping on point.
Yeah. Did we talk about anything else? No, I don't think we did. So your game of the show, Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me it's definitely my number 2, only because Gran Turismo is Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think we'll finish with Horizon.
So after we talked about the show, there's two other things I wanted to finish on, but we'll do Horizon first.
Well, we'll finish on the Sony part of it anyway with Horizon, and then we'll move on to a couple of general bits and bobs. But Horizon looks incredible.
It
does look like it's a new map. So I don't know whether part of the old map will be included or even the whole of the old map.
I don't think so.
Maybe. I don't know whether whether she has a base or whatever, because it does look like you can potentially use the flying robots to fly with now as well. So
it looks so good. It's made me want to go and potentially play Horizon.
How far did you get? Oh, I
Not
know.
Far.
Yeah, you didn't get that far at all.
And it came out at the same time Breath of the Wild did.
Yeah.
And
it's an issue a lot of people had.
You only have so much capacity for giant open world kind of exploration games. And Breath of the Wild was
massive
and sublime.
I'm going to have to pause. I'll be back just a sec. Yes, Horizon. Yeah, looks stunning. So you gave up just after you have to. Well, it was when you were raiding that camp, I think. Wasn't it? Yeah.
I'm not far out of the.
To be honest,
really.
The first time round, that is quite possibly the hardest bit of the game.
I just bounced off it enough times that if I start again, I'm starting from the beginning again because I can't remember enough to jump in there. And jumping in at that combat situation, I don't think I would build up the flow.
No.
To get past it.
It's funny, like when I played it again, I should have upped the difficulty. I didn't.
Yeah.
The main reason I didn't up the difficulty was because I knew that Frozen Wilds was significantly harder than the main game. Yeah. So I didn't want the difficulty to be so high by the time I got to Frozen Wilds that I was just going to get destroyed. But for the bulk of the main game, once you've learned everything and what have you, then good lord, it's easy, but in the way that it's just so well built and put together, the mechanics of things. When I got to that raid that gave us both actually some issues the first time round, I decimated them in seconds. It felt like, whereas I was the same as you the first time round. It took me multiple goes, including having to turn the console off and either play something else or watch some telly and go back another day and what have you. It was one of those. But it's well worth it. Absolutely, really, really well worth it. You don't have to do all the side missions, but it's quite nice to do all the side missions because they are, as much as a lot of the time they're fetch quests. Go here, do that. Go here, do that. It does help you like appreciate the world building that little bit more, because they've created a truly stunning world, and the lore of the environment is wonderful. So I look forward to seeing how they've expanded that. It looks like it's going to be kind of based in California this time.
Yeah.
So with a lot of it in San Francisco. So we'll see what that's like. Can't wait to play it though. Especially with the controller with the adaptive triggers. With that, I mean, the bow and arrow on the PlayStation 4 felt amazing as it was. So
so with adaptive triggers.
Oof, yeah.
2 things to end on.
Yeah.
Number 1, EA's
42 minutes of
nothing
of something.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
yeah.
I watched it live. They showed off Squadrons.
Yeah.
And that looks amazing.
I think, yeah, I mean, I didn't watch it live. I woke up to lots of people tweeting about it saying, oh no. So I think I went in prepared for a little bit of disappointment. So I enjoyed it.
Have you actually watched it now?
I have watched it. I enjoyed it.
It is a supremely polished. It's probably the best presentation I've seen in this summer of gaming. But it's a presentation for nothing.
Yeah, they quite literally managed to polish the turd with that.
Like it is. It opens with. What did they open with? Oh yeah, Apex, some new Apex stuff. So yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Yeah. Then they remind us that they make Sims, but it just seems to be just a reminder that they make.
Which took way too long as well. Like that was like 6 or 7 minutes of just like, hey, diamonds.
Then show the Squadrons, which it's cool.
I think. Well, no, it was something else before.
Oh no, they showed us the EA originals.
Yeah.
Who are working on things.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After that, they showed us Squadrons.
Yeah.
They then remind us to make sports games.
And not even...
But again, don't show us any sports games, really. They just remind us we make them.
Yeah.
They then remind us that we have teams who are in theory working on some next-gen stuff, and the car models, the Dragon Age shot, and the face models for Battlefield were impressive tech demos.
Yeah.
And then they told us that Skate is in production, potentially.
No, Skate's been greenlit.
Yeah.
They didn't say in production. They quite obviously saw the announcement for Tony Hawk, realised that their video, their state of play or whatever it's called, was going to be just such a poor thing, especially after the leak of Squadrons. Like, I reckon that video of the 2 guys having a little chat and going, "Yay, Skate!" I think that was done like literally the day after Squadron was leaked on the Xbox store.
Skate. I mean, I didn't realize how many people love Skate.
I think it's one of those like.
And if there was a deep love for Tony Hawk.
I think it's one of those like, let's just jump on a bandwagon type of thing. Like, it's a nostalgia kind of like. There are a lot of people who like.
I did think
genuinely do love it, but like I think there's a lot more people who think they love it.
I played the first Skate and it was great.
Yeah.
And coming off of some Tony Hawk games at that time were bad.
Well, Tony Hawk for me never grabbed me anyway. Like
they were good. Like the original.
I'm not gonna doubt that, but for me it was just my gameplay style. So
yeah, Tony Hawk's 1 and 2 were good PlayStation 1 games.
Mm.
Tony Hawk's 3 was a great PS2 game. Tony Hawk 4 was starting to be a little, and then they gave us the 2 Thugs, and the 2 Thugs were fascinating games. As in, I don't think they could exist today. They're very much of the. It's like Tony Hawk's meets Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
And it's weird. Like, but I remember getting, like, I think they came out a year after each other, Thug and then Thug 2. And they hit at Christmas time. And they were both on my Christmas list that year. And I remember getting up early in the morning, and my parents would always leave me a mapped game outside my bedroom door, right?
Yeah.
So I basically wouldn't bother them for a few hours.
Yeah.
It was always point like, here's a couple of presents that you can play your PS2 and you're not going to wake us up at 7 in the morning. And Fug was always, for 2 years before Fugs came out.
They were.
And I remember booting up, creating my skater on like Christmas morning, and obviously my love of that is very nostalgia tinged. And that's like, I have more nostalgia for Fug than I do for Tony Hawk's 1 and 2, which is why, like, if Activision were to announce a Fug remake, I'd be there. But so much is tied into, like, the music is tied into that feeling. I was a big, like, fan of that genre of music at the time. I think
that's the thing with the Tony Hawk's remake as well, though, because they've managed to license a lot of the original music, and then they've licensed some music that is suitable additions.
Yeah. I was big into skate culture, even if I was a terrible and had no hope of ever actually really being able to skate.
Yeah.
Tried.
Oh yeah, so did I. I was terrible, absolutely terrible. But I think I tried in the 80s.
I got a cheap skateboard from JD Sports. Not JD Sports. No, not JD. The other one, the one that doesn't exist anymore.
JJB.
JJB.
Yeah.
A cheap 20 quid skateboard, and I snapped it on. First time I pulled up an ollie, it snapped in two.
Yeah. So
now I'm feeling bad for me. Well, let's go to a skate shop and get you
a real one,
a proper skateboard. But I know like how much he spent on it, and I was so scared of ever breaking it.
Yeah.
I could never do an ollie again.
Yeah.
Like, because
I mean, to be honest, I'm surprised that you actually managed to do one anyway, knowing how coordinated you are.
Oh yeah.
I mean, maybe it's just one of those moments like when you occasionally catch something.
Well, it's for skateboard. You eventually sell like and we raided it to turn it into a camera dolly.
Still got it somewhere, I think, or did I take it back eventually?
No, I think it's probably in your parents' garage.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Skate's something I'll certainly play when it's made. I hope they give them time, because it shouldn't be a short development unless it's going to be a remake or a remaster or a greatest hits kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if they want it to be as good as it can possibly be, I think they need at least 2 years to get that ready. Especially because obviously it's going to be a next gen game, so it's got to be as pretty as possible as well. Although I do think maybe getting a different team to remaster some of the old ones first, because they're all hiding on the PlayStation 3, aren't they? And the Xbox, which obviously for Xbox owners with backwards compatibility, that's not a problem. But yeah, maybe some tasty remasters, because there was only 3 games, so maybe bundle all 3 of them together.
I can think there's 3 of them.
Or even just do a greatest hits. Just...
They never said Skate 4. It may literally just be a remaster.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think it needs to be rushed.
Squadrons is a £35 game.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I will totally be getting that, even though it isn't necessarily something I'll be any good at.
I'm very excited for the campaign.
Yeah.
Like, we talk about Fallen Order being like EA figuring out how to make a story game. But the truth is, like, Battlefront 2 has a phenomenal story campaign. For all that game's issues, and they were many. It's not. EA did actually rip out most of the kind of pay-to-play crap we tried to launch it with eventually. Apparently, it's a pretty healthy online game these days that doesn't require you to spend, but the damage was done.
I think the biggest thing for me is it's an online game. I'm just not, like, other than Gran Turismo and occasionally PES when I feel like being killed. I just don't do online.
If you could get
I'm not a good enough shooter.
if you could get Battlefront 2 cheap,
Yeah.
it's worth picking up for the very solid 6-10 hour
Yeah.
campaign. It's probably one of my favorite Disney Star Wars stories.
Cool.
Fallen Order is great, and Fallen Order is a better game, is a better experience.
Mm.
But because there's no fact, it is a story draped over Battlefront 2, right? It's the Battlefront 2 engine. It's a shooter, but it's a story draped over what's predominantly meant to be an online massive map.
Yeah.
Shooter, and they've taken that engine and forced the campaign into it. So the gameplay loop is fine. You shoot a lot of things. It becomes a little bit more fun when you get to fly something.
Mm.
The game itself is neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But the story of because you start off as a special forces Imperial trooper.
Yeah, I know the story. Yeah.
And you, as you kind of, it starts at the Battle of Endor.
Mm.
So as the kind of Empire falls, you kind of come to a conclusion that maybe you were on the wrong.
Yeah, because Squadrons is set at a similar time period, so
It's a bit after, but yeah,
it's a little bit after. So in some ways, especially as in theory, it's canon because of the licensing with Disney. Then this is a sort of sequel because it's made by the same team that did the story part of Battlefield 2. So this is almost Battlefield 2.5.
And I think we know how to tell a very good military Star Wars story.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. Right, I think we are.
One last thing before we. Yeah. What have you been playing?
Yes, of course. The most important thing. Gran Turismo 7. Not 7. Gran Turismo Sport, of course. Last week was hard. So obviously I'm attempting to get the platinum. When we last spoke on video, I had decided that was going to be my quest. I was going to have a crack at it. So obviously that means significantly upping the number of wins that I have a week and ideally pole positions as well. The two hardest trophies for me are going to be getting the number of wins trophy, which is a gold, I think, for 91 race victories, and number of pole positions, which is 63 pole positions. When we last spoke, I was at roughly 20 for each. And so last week, the race I was best at was also the dirtiest race of the week. Because you were going so fast, because it was in the baby Red Bull, which is essentially like a baby F1 car.
Yeah.
And it was going around Monza, which is a notoriously fast and F1 circuit that people like to crash at anyway, but it's Monza without the first chicane, which for those that understand, obviously that gets rid of some crashing there, but that does mean that when you're going around the first big bend, everyone is going at top speed. So everyone's going at knocking on 200 miles an hour in a car that is a little bit slippy. And so there are lots of crashes on the first bend, and then you've got a second chicane, or what's usually the second chicane, but now the first chicane, where you are most certainly going at full whack. And there are 20 people on track who don't want to brake at the right point. So if you qualify anywhere outside of the top 4, then unless you're right on the back row, so like 19th and 20th, you are going to crash at that first chicane. Guaranteed. Doesn't matter how careful you are, it's going to happen. So it was a week where I think I did that race, because it was the longer race of the week as well. So it was it was a 20-minute race, essentially. I did that race at least 30 times last week, and I think there was 3, 4 races maybe where I didn't have an incident, which is just ridiculous. I lost my sportsmanship rank dramatically last week. There were a couple of points where I was down to a D rank sportsmanship ranking, and I had to like really claw it back to get it back to a B. But I managed to get 2 wins last week. The first one felt like a fluke. The second one I deserved. It was actually my very last race of the week last week, and it was my only pole position of the week. So I started in first. Didn't get into the mess at the first chicane because I started in first and I braked exactly right. Managed to escape, and then I led the race for the entire thing. So so it's going well this week. Unless some pure flukes lobbying wise, like getting into the correct lobby and what have you, like I'm not going to win a race this week. There's nothing I'm good enough at this week, track wise or car selection wise. This week it's one of the Japanese the Tokyo road circuit ones, and it's one I'm not familiar with. And you've got the choice of 3 different Japanese cars. Like road going cars, so the handling is not great. It's quite a dirty race. The amount of people who's crashing in that one so it's going to be difficult. The second race is at Bathurst in Australia, which I'm awful at. It's with one of my favourite cars, so it's a Group 3 race, so I can use the DB9 GT1, but I'm just terrible at Bathurst. It would take most of the week to practice to get good enough to actually qualify high enough to stand a chance at Bathurst. And then the third one is at one of Gran Turismo's purpose-built ones, which is the one that I actually stand a chance of doing anything with. Although I think, to be honest, the best I'm going to get is 5th this week. I can probably get consistent 5ths, but getting onto the podium this week is going to be pure fluke. It will, quite a bit of tactics with that one. The best cars for it seem to be front-wheel drive cars. However, it will destroy the tyres of a front-wheel drive car. So I'm having to play around with settings and stuff like that to find. How about yourself?
I've played 2 games this week.
Yeah.
I've been playing I decided to give PS Now a go.
Yeah.
See how it compares with Game Pass, because it has that. It had that a year for £35 deal.
Yes.
On.
Yeah.
You can download now, which I didn't know. PS4 games, at least. You still stream older stuff, but
that's cool.
And Control is on there, so I decided to give Control a go. It is fantastic.
Cool.
The world it's building, the story, combat plays well. The puzzles, everything is just really good. It's creepy in the right ways. It's not horror. It's not scary.
Yeah.
But it's the right level of creepy.
I get you.
The other game I've tried is over the past couple of weeks, itch.io, which is a website you can buy indie games from.
Yeah.
Both video and like tabletop RPGs. They had a charity bundle for Black Lives Matter.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Base price was $5, although really at $5 you were basically stealing what you were getting. You should.
Yeah.
So I pitched in a bit more than that, but it ended up at over 1,000 titles.
I think it was 1,700. I know the one you're on about. Yeah.
I grabbed it because it had some RPGs that I've been wanting to buy in it. Anyway, some tabletop RPGs. That's why I grabbed the bundle. But I thought I'd have a scroll through the video games, and I found one called Arcade Spirits, which is set in an indeterminate future where you work as an arcade worker. and it's one of those, those dating games where it's basically just static screens and you're picking the dialogue options.
Yeah.
It's one of those games. But I played it probably I put in about an hour into it the other day, played through the first chapter, and very fun. I've not played many of those style of games because I know the pigeon dating one is similar to that kind of game.
A Total Boyfriend, yes.
That style of Japanese dating game that started to become popular in the West as well, at least with indie developers. You also have Dream Daddy and the KFC one, don't you?
Yes. Dream Daddy was the really big one here.
Yeah, Dream Daddy is one. I think that after the pigeon one is what broke. And this is that style of game, but you play an arcade worker, and you have to run the arcade while talking to your co-workers.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very fun. It's one I'd been eyeing up on Switch anyway because it intrigued me. And when I saw it was included in this bundle, I was like, you know what? Let's install it and give it a go.
Cool.
Yeah, they're the two things I've been playing.
Excellent. So on that, I think that's the end of the PlayStation thing. Of our discussion this week. So obviously, if there's any significant gaming news, we'll do another video. But until then, we will have other things to discuss. I believe coming soon, we'll be compiling some lists of movies.
That is correct.
But we'll deal with that in a different video. So, see you all again. Goodbye.